future people with smelly, touchy-feely VR shows might think that they dream with lots of textures and odors and find it strange, maybe even frightening, that few of us seem to.
Oh, people are going to have some awesome sleep paralysis demons in full colors. Hey YouTube, Jack here. I do have an electric desk, so I could have just used that to make the bit even better, but didn't think of it. Anyways, guys, how's it going? Jack here with another reaction. Today, I was reminded of something great, because yesterday, or a couple of days by now, as this video get released, I uploaded a video about the whole thing with Marcus Brownlee and the AI pin from Humane, as well as some other tech that came out recently, and it reminded me of some old YouTubers that I used to watch, as I talked about them in the video. And to that, I was reminded that I had actually promised some of the members of my Discord to watch some old Vsauce videos. And by old, I actually mean some Vsauce videos, because he hasn't uploaded for a full year now. And by he, I'm of course talking about Michael Stevens, the GOAT, the absolute legend of a man who uses but a fraction of his intelligence to tell us some great stuff that we might need to know. This one is going to be on the subject of looking older. It's a thing that I think is always recurrent, just like the one saying that is often coined to Ecclesiastes, I think, that Bible book of "there's nothing new under the sun." It is of course a reference to the labors in that book, but of course the whole thing that a lot of the things that we observe, the cycles from fashion to the trends that are going on, tend to repeat themselves. As an example, in the last decade, I think that one of the things that was pushed the most to us was the idea of minimalism, how we were supposed to consume a lot less, to find peace with the few items that we possessed and figure out if they did indeed spark joy. Fast forward to the beginning of the 2020s and we are observing maximalism instead, where we just need to consume as much as possible. And while it's not a new thing, it's been happening in the past, okay, from the different shifts in decades, I guess that this one is just going to leave a trashier world behind us. And likewise, I think it goes with the idea of how we end up looking and how older we perceive ourselves. I'm willing to bet that every single generation is going to claim that they actually look way younger than their predecessors. However, I think that with certain trends, it can lead up to an actual, tangible, worse outlook on things, like for example with the looks maxing that we're observing right now. Like the last decade, once more using that example, it's been a lot about like body acceptance and stuff like that, but the idea of just accepting what your genetic makeup has given you and just striving to be a better version of that than you can ever be has sort of been left a little bit aside, with now a goal to be just the most beautiful, to do all those, I don't even know, man, whatever new trend is going on TikTok. It's very strange and even more unhealthy from both the side of female who are doing that with beauty product and not wanting to have wrinkle on their faces, just like previous generation have had, but just much worse. And of course with guys now who go to the gym and are going so far as to taking compounds that are ruining their bodies. And I know that this might not be the thing that Michael is going to focus on, and most likely might be going through the steps of history, and that's of course what I'm interested in. But just to give you the perspective that I may have about this, as I will be adding commentary to this video. So without further ado, sorry for the long intro, let's get into this.
Hey Vsauce, Michael here. At the age of 18, Carl Sagan looked like a teenager. But it doesn't take long in an old high school yearbook to find teenagers who look surprisingly old. These people are all in their 20s.
Hey,
but so
in
are these
sync.
people. This is Elizabeth Taylor when she was just 17.
Dang.
And here are some high school students from the 70s. Did people used to look older?
Hey.
Brandon McCarthy asked on Twitter, and evidence poured in. People shared photos of their parents in their early 20s, their dad at 21, their mom at 18 or 19, their dad at 45. One user shared their husband
That's not 45. No way.
18 or 19, their dad at 45.
Holy. Now, I have had classmates, even at the ripe age of 18, who were already balding bad. Oof. I don't want to look like that when I'm 45. I want at least to keep my full set of hair. Well, we don't have a history of balding in our family, so perhaps that's going to be a good thing. And it also kind of sucks that the one thing, the testosterone or the dihydrotestosterone that that is supposed to be helping you is the very cause that makes you bald. So like you get most of your bodily functions going and you keep your musculature, but you're gonna lose something. And for some, it's the hair.
One user shared their husband at 27 and what his father looked like at 23.
Whoa.
And there's pretty much an entire subculture around how old footballers looked decades ago. 24, 31, 33, 29, 27. It's not
No. Wow. Now, as an advocate of people looking older, at least in the way that they dress, because that has a huge effect, okay? Let's not deny that. I am myself a person who, I'd always dress like an old person. Like, look at this. Like, shirt tucked in, like, massive pants. Throughout my entire life, I've always dressed as somebody who had like that Benjamin Button disease, but just off the mind. I was always wearing the type of attire that make me look like an old person. Now, there's an explanation for that. I was raised rather religious, so the whole thing of modesty had an effect on me. But even when I left religion behind, that was still a component that stuck with me. Yet still, that does not explain to look like this at 27. Mate, and you're Swedish. You're not supposed to have this look. You are supposed to keep your full set of hair.
It's not uncommon to think that there's something more grown up about the way people used to be. To look back and think that people seemed older at a younger age than they do now.
Now, this makes sense.
Let's call it retrospective aging. It doesn't happen to everyone. People do not and never have aged similarly. And there's even the opposite observation that kids these days grow up too fast. But it's a popular question and subject of numerous memes. So, is it real? Or is it an illusion fueled by cherry-picked examples that feeds rosy nostalgia for a time when people were tough and didn't have it as easy as you kids have it now?
That's cool.
As it turns out, both. Humans today really are aging more slowly than their historic counterparts. Changes in lifestyle, nutrition, smoking habits, healthcare, early life conditions, and skincare, particularly the use of sunscreen, are a huge part of it.
Yeah.
By comparing measures of metabolic, cardiovascular, inflammatory, kidney, liver, and lung function across time, researchers at Yale and USC have found that we are, in fact, staying younger for longer than we used to.
That's why the saying of black don't crack quite literally makes sense, because in the exposure of the sun, we are more resistant. We do still need sunscreen, okay? As some who are regular fans of the channel would have said in the previous video that almost made me lose my mind.
And just when I thought I had hit rock bottom dumb, Heavenly told me that black people can sunburn, and it made me feel even dumber.
We do also require it, but it's of course at a much less degree.
So does that mean that 60 is the new 50? Almost. Their results suggest that between the early 90s and the late 2000s, 60 became the new 56. 40 became the new 37 and a half, and 20 became the new 19. Oh, also, during the last century, dentistry and orthodontics have played a huge cosmetic role in the kinds of faces we see in parts of the world.
Yes, absolutely. That is so accurate. I wish I could show you some pictures. Like, I have pictures of myself, but not so much of my family, and also that would kind of suck to just put them on blast like that. But on my mother's side of the family, there's a huge dentistry issue. But that's not the point. What I'm trying to get at is that through observing what was going on with them and seeing them go to the dentist all the time, like very regularly every single year, I got to observe how the looks changed.
But interestingly, when faces in magazines are measured from the 1930s to today, the only significant change has been that across all ethnicities, the media is now exposing us to larger lips.
Oh.
Also, retroactive aging can occur over short time spans. When I was a freshman, the seniors in my high school seemed so old to me. But by the time I was a senior myself, I looked in the mirror and at my peers and I was
Dashing.
like, we're them now, but we don't seem as old as they did.
Yeah.
What's going on isn't just about bodies. First of all, the seniors I looked at when I was a freshman truly were older than me at that time. They graduated and went away, and later, when I was a senior, I saw myself as I was. But in my mind's eye, I saw the earlier seniors as they appeared to me when I was younger.
Right.
Retrospective aging seems to also be about perspective. Let's go back to this tweet. This is George Wendt playing Norm on the TV show Cheers. Now, when Cheers premiered, Wendt was indeed 34, but I looked it up, and this image is actually from episode 24 of season 5 when Wendt was 38. So we're not comparing apples to apples here.
No.
However, this is an image of George Wendt at 34.
So it's not too far
and
off.
Ashley Fairbanks made some alterations and a good point.
Yeah, it goes a long way. Like, I personally have like two styles, mainly. Either I look the way that I'm dressed right now, like kind of old school, looking like a veteran, or like a suburban dad from like the 60s or whatever. Or I dress as if I was going to the gym, like looking like one of those fitness influencers. And literally, that dress code is going to change your age. It's so much. Of course, the facial hair does a huge trick. I can show you like a picture of me if I just post that on the split screen here. It's a picture of me from like just 4 years ago. This is a similar time frame, right? The 38 to 34. And tell me what the facial hair does to my face here. Yeah, it helps. Right? It does help.
However, here's the rub. These alterations don't make Wendt look more like a 34-year-old. They make him look more like a 34-year-old
Today. Yeah.
Similarly, giving the Golden Girls modern-day hairstyles and makeup drops their apparent age a lot. Superficial styles and mannerisms can often make not just a big difference, but all the difference.
Yeah.
Which supports the hypothesis that retrospective aging is often an illusion. Modes of self-expression are always changing. Clothing, hairstyles, accessories, makeup, mannerisms, language, body language. Now, modes can come back, but never exactly. The context is always a little bit different. And from what's available or acceptable at any one time, we each draw ways of appearing or being in the world. And even if you don't care about how you look or think about how you act, what options you even have are dictated by what's currently popular or normal or being pushed on people like you.
True.
Few of us stay at the stream, drawing what's new all our lives. For various reasons, we often wander away with our catch. Perhaps it's because we settle into an identity we're comfortable with, or fear the taboo of not dressing our age, or simply run out of time to care.
I wish that a lot more people left the stream. Like, I remember, like, in the early, like, close to the 2010s, where I was going through my punk rock phase, there was such a huge diversity in the way that people looked. Like from clothing styles or everything. Like occasionally I can observe that when I go to the big cities. We live a bit more removed here to the countryside. But like it was so, I think it felt great just to know the multitude of people and different style and somewhat subcultures that people were adhering to. It felt nice. And while I initially thought that such things as I've mentioned, maximalist movement that is going on right now of constant consumerism, especially in the fast fashion business, would have brought something like that back. The wave that it rides, or at least that the people that adhere to that mentality ride, is often just affected by whatever influencer they are following. Like, for example, the Taylor Swift type, right? Like, we've all heard the story about how fast fashion brands were producing the dress that she was supposed to wear. Like, how every single person was supposed to have that specific dress code to attend to her concert and stuff. And the same thing with other superstars. Like, it's so weird. I understand that people want to adhere to a group and stuff like that, but you have your own personality, do you?
But when we're gone, the stream keeps changing. And we get older and continue to use the mannerisms and styles we grabbed a while back. Eventually, to whatever those styles initially evoked, a new connotation is added.
Yeah.
Old person. Not because the look or behavior is intrinsically for the elderly, but because those
the time
who
passed.
use it, us, became old ourselves.
Yeah.
If you want to look older, what do? Well, you can dress the way older people dress. And the thing is, that's often how they used to dress too. We think people looked older in the past because they look the way old people do today. Dale Irby, a gym teacher at Prestonwood Elementary School in Dallas, Texas, posed for his first yearbook photo in 1973. The following year, he accidentally wore the same outfit again. He says he was embarrassed at first, but his wife Kathy challenged him to do it again. So he did. And he never stopped. What he gave us is a great, exaggerated example of how what once connoted youth comes to be associated with old age. The people we keep seeing a style on get older and older themselves until we think of the style itself as being for old people.
What a legend.
Retrospective aging, then, is double-pronged, both real and illusory. People in the past really did age faster than us because of differences in nutrition and lifestyle and medicine, but much, if not most, can be chalked up to the fact that we think people like this are dressed like old people. But that's an anachronism. They're dressed like old people from the future, the old people they would become. Has anyone ever dressed like a young person from the future?
Yeah, I know what we're gonna do right now. One of those picture capsules thing, right? A la Back to the Future type. We've seen those before. At least I've seen those before.
Well, it happened in 1941 at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Canada. A crowd came out to celebrate and photos were taken. In 2010, the photos were digitized and placed online. That's when this guy was noticed. A
time traveler.
Traveling hipster. Why a time traveler wouldn't bother to blend in, and why, with all of history to visit, he chose the reopening of a bridge in the 40s, no one knew. The photo was confirmed to be undoctored, and researchers put forward the idea that this man was not, in fact, a time traveler, that his shirt wasn't an ironic screen print, but simply bore the logo of the Montreal Maroons, a nearby hockey team at the time. They said his sunglasses and knit sweater were not unusual for the 40s, nor was his portable camera. The only thing that was unusual about it was how casual his attire was. And they're probably right. But this all raises the exciting possibility that someone out there right now, possibly even you, is unknowingly dressed like people in the future will, and your appearance in photos will someday freak them out. You know, it might be fun to start dressing even more casually or in some other odd way on the off chance that you happen to nail it, and years from now you are worshipped as a time traveler.
Oh, dude. Those the stylish guys on Instagram who are like putting out $1,000 worth of outfits. Yeah, they've already won that game. They're living in 2077.
Oh, that reminds me of today's sponsor. Whoa! Who's that guy? Does he look like a Bill, a Mark, a Justin, or a Josh? Pause right now if you'd like to think about it.
I'm gonna say Josh. That's an uncanny face. It looks like one of those weird attempt where you want to make both sides of the face look equal, but it comes off as weird. Why does the face look weird? Don't stare at me.
According to research from Millsaps College and Miami University, this is Mark.
Oh.
Or at least, this is what we think people named Mark look like. By asking people to make and rate digitally created faces, researchers were able to put together prototypical faces for a number of different names. This is apparently what we think a Josh looks like. A Bill, a Justin, a Dan, a Brian, a Tom, an Andy.
Oh, it's the Kiki Booba effect, yeah? The association of like concepts with colors, for example. I feel at least that with the names that we can give those association to certain people's facial structures.
The idea that names might conjure certain face shapes in our minds isn't that strange. For example, there's Wolfgang Kohler's famous finding that when asked which of these shapes is
Kiki,
named Booba
Boba,
and which is named Kiki,
people
of all different ages and cultures and languages overwhelmingly assign Kiki to the spiky one and Booba to the blobby one.
I literally use this as an example for the humane AI joke that I made in the previous video that I mentioned in the start.
And sure enough, it certainly seems to work with names too. Which one of these men is Tim and which is Bob? Well,
Tim
almost
in the
unanimously
left.
People feel like this is Tim and this is Bob.
Yeah.
But are these men actually named Tim and Bob? Well, there's the rub. Just because we associate certain names, certain sounds, with certain shapes, doesn't mean we're right.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a biological name. If a person still goes by the same name they were given as a baby, long before anyone knew what they would look like as an adult, well, surely there won't be a connection. But as it turns out, there is.
Oh no.
Believe it or not, in a multiple choice setting, people can guess a stranger's name just by looking at their face.
Like those parents on the Facebook group, like if this post gets 1,000,000 likes, we're gonna name our son Optimus Prime.
More often than we would expect from luck alone. It's called the face name matching effect. Here's a stimulus from Zwebner's research. Do you think this man is named Jacob, Dan, Joseph, or Nathaniel? By just randomly picking a name, people should get this right 25% of the time. But Zwebner found that people picked the correct answer, Dan, nearly 40% of the time.
Well, I guess that I'm not part of this.
What's going on? Can names actually cause us to grow to look a certain way? Well, apparently they can. It has been called a Dorian Gray effect. In Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, a portrait of the protagonist ages and grotesquely reflects his evil deeds while he himself remains young and pure-looking. In a similar way, it seems that in some cases, our own appearance can come to reflect the name we were given. but I kind of think it's really more of a reverse Dorian Gray effect. I mean, in the book, Dorian's reality affects the appearance of his portrait, but the face-name matching effect goes the other way. A inanimate sign, a name, influences our actual physical appearance. Well, anyway, it's not news that a person's name can lead others to have certain expectations of them and treat them accordingly. It's been found, for example, that multiracial faces given European names are rated as looking more European than the same faces are when presented with non-European names.
That's very accurate. I remember a similar thing happening. Now, I'm not multiracial. I am full Cameroonian born. But when I came to Denmark, people were kind of surprised that I had a French name. Although, if they knew somewhat of their history, they will know that Cameroon has been a French colony. So the name Jacques is pretty common. And yes, for those who do not know this about me, that is my actual name. Jack is just the name that I chose myself because kids at my age had a difficulty pronouncing that, so I just went with Jack instead, and also because I spoke English to them and not French. So yeah, I decided to go with the easier one for their sake, and it's kind of stuck.
The expectations a name carries with it may create a self-fulfilling prophecy, whereby as a person grows up, they're motivated to fulfill those expectations, carry themselves in ways people think someone with their name should, and even like, dislike, accentuate, hide, use, and avoid different parts of their face and body depending on whether or not those parts match their name. It's been found that faces and names that match are emotionally liked more than faces and names that don't. Analysis of voting data has shown that senatorial candidates earn 10% more votes when their names fit their faces very well.
Joe? Yeah, that's true. Barack? Donald? Guess, actually, so far it does fit pretty much. Teddy? Literally looks like a teddy bear. I'm only listing American presidents so far, but I bet that if you go and looking outside of that box, you can definitely find the same thing. Angela? Definitely.
Then when they fit very poorly. Now with that in mind, part of the effect could literally come from the fact that although parents don't know what their kid will look like as an adult, the parents do know what they look like, and without knowing it, tend to prefer names that match their faces.
Yeah.
Which are likely to resemble their child's face as well. But not always. If the dissonance is too great, a person can always change their name, either completely or by simply choosing a nickname. If I had been just a little bit different,
Mike.
Michael, could have always gone by Mike. The fact that people can adjust their names to fit them, of course, merely strengthens the face name matching effect. By studying whether the correct name could be guessed when different parts of a face were occluded, researchers were able to develop heat maps showing which parts of the face different names are most characteristically associated with. Apparently, looking like an Anne is all about the tip of the nose. It's the bridge of the nose for Arthur's and the philtrum or snot trough for Benjamin's. Aurélies are recognized by their face spiders? Let's go back to old people.
No, that makes sense though. How many people do you know are named Aurélies? I know Annalise. I don't know many Aurélies. But in a sense, you are going to try to figure out where exactly the name came from, what pushed the parents to name the kids that. And by that, you will be very thoroughly inspecting the person's visage. So that, I think it makes sense.
How old is an old person? 73.7.
Yes.
That's according to results published in the Journal of American Geriatrics last year. It's the average age people gave when asked, when does old age begin?
In Cameroon, we have a celebration we call on the 11th of February, called the Youth Fest. So for young people, and we say that it goes from 7 to 77. So between those ages, you remain young.
People under 65 on average said 71, and people over 65 on average said 77. Women said old age began 3 years later than men did. White people said it began 8 years later than non-whites did, and people who felt healthy placed old age later in life than those who felt less healthy.
Yeah.
But how old do people want to be? Well, that depends on how old they already are. In America, the only people who are the age they would like to be are 21-year-olds. People younger than 21 wish they were older, and people older than 21 wish they were younger.
Yeah.
People who are 40 wish they were 30, people who are 60 wish they were 40, and people who are 90 wish they were 60. When people are asked if they could be one age forever, the average American picks 36, which is actually how old I am right now, funny enough.
Oh.
Here's something else that's funny.
That's young. And in my answer, I am definitely not coping with the fact that I am going to be turning 30 next year. No, it remains young. I think that if we are to be totally honest with ourselves, only when you pass something like 45 or 50 that you can truly call yourself old.
Old people are more likely to think they dream in black and white. Not because it's part of the aging process, but because they are veterans of the great black and white dream epidemic of the 20th century. Prior to the 1900s, Aristotle, Descartes, Freud, everyone who wrote about the topic reported that dreams contained color. But as humanity moved into the 20th century, the number of people reporting color in their dreams dropped just as quickly as the popularity of new black and white movies and TV rose. By the 60s, as color TV and movies became more and more common, reports of colored dreams started going back up. And today, people who grew up with black and white TV continue to report more black and white dreams than those who didn't.
Okay.
And later studies across China found the same thing. The frequency of black and white dreaming correlated strongly with how common black and white TV was in a person's area. So, did black and white movies and TV literally change our dreams? Well, first of all, it's not clear whether dreams themselves actually changed or if people just started thinking differently about their dreams.
I mean, dreams often are like classified as being like a correlation of the things that we observe throughout a day or a month or a given period of time and gets triggered by a myriad of things. But it's like a manifestation of some of the memories and experiences that we have throughout our lives. So I guess it makes sense.
We're trying, but we still haven't found a way to get direct access to dream content. Eric Switchable has pointed out that as far as we know, dreams may not be in color or black and white, or sepia or anything. They may be primarily indeterminate in color as they happen, and only later, during recall, do we confabulate details about color. He compares dreaming to reading. Is a novel in color or black and white? As you read a story, what do you see in your mind? It might be the case that dreams, vaporous as they are something we simply have a terrible grip on, and that movies and TV shows have given us the illusion of understanding them. In fact, Switchable has speculated that smells and touch sensations are rare in dreams today, but future people with smelly, touchy-feely VR shows might think that they dream with lots of textures and odors and find it strange, maybe even frightening, that few of us seem to. But why would we think that dreams were like moving pictures and not normal waking life?
Oh, people are going to have some awesome sleep paralysis demons in full colors.
Or does the picture
Nice.
get you?
Nice.
And as always,
Thanks for watching. Oh boy, I've missed this. Well, at least this video gave me a much better sense of my clothing style, knowing that I'm in fact not dressing as an old person, but rather as a future old person that is more